Welcome back to Area Diesel Service. Today we're going to do a deep dive into BorgWarner's S300SX-E product line. We're going to review the different options they have available. We're going to talk about a specific application and example that a turbocharger has been specified for, and we're going to bring you along. S300SX-E. S300 is a frame or model size of turbocharger. So that's the first thing in the model designation today, S300. SX being that it lives in the performance line of BorgWarner turbochargers. So BorgWarner Performance Catalog contains the SX range of turbochargers, and the E is enhanced. So in the S300 range, milled from solid, machined from solid, forged, milled, wheel, billet compressor if you will, 360-degree thrust bearing, and enhancements also made to the compressor cover configuration. So we'll review what those options are, and we'll talk about all of the different options within the S300SX-E range of turbochargers. This range of turbos comes in what we call SuperCore configurations. When you identify which unit you need for your application, you select a SuperCore, which is effectively turbocharger less the turbine housing, and then you select the appropriate turbine housing option again for your application, for your build. Alright, so the options in the S300SX-E range of turbos. Two different diameter turbine wheels. There is a 76mm OD and an 80mm OD. So that's one of the things that will need to be determined. Which diameter turbine wheel do you want to run? There are several different compressor wheel options, different inducer diameters that can be paired with the two different turbine wheel options. 61mm compressor wheel diameter on either size turbine wheel, 63 on either turbine wheel, 64, the 66mm option in the SX-E range only runs on the 80mm turbine wheel, and the same thing, there's a 69mm and 72mm. Alright, so with all of those different wheel configurations comes the turbine housing options that are available. 6 different turbine housings in the catalog that'll drop on out of the box depending on the turbine wheel size that you have selected. And in both sizes, you've got 0.88, 0.91, and 1.0 AR turbine housing. And then they're not listed, but with some modifications, Area Diesel can supply wastegated housings if you're looking at a towing application or something like that. All the SuperCore options, mated with all the turbine housing options, gives you a wide variety of coverage for this range of turbo. When you hear the term S369, they're talking about a BorgWarner S300 model turbocharger with a compressor wheel in the 69mm diameter measurement. So that's really all S369 tells us. It doesn't tell us what size turbine wheel you want to run. It doesn't tell us what AR turbine housing. And it doesn't really tell us the characteristics of the compressor cover. How does everything connect? Okay, so lots of options. How do you know which option is right for you? That's a tough one. A couple of ways to do it. One is to have years of experience, trial and tribulation, and just know what combinations work with what applications. It's one of the value-added services of reaching out to Area Diesel Service. If you tell us what you've got and what you're trying to do, we've got a real good idea of what it is that you're going to need. Beyond that, we'll drop you a link to BorgWarner's MatchBot program. It's a little overwhelming, but it is the industry's best publicly available turbo specification tool. Go through, fill out all of your particulars, and it'll tell you what it is you're going to need for flow out of the turbocharger. Compare that to the maps in the catalog, and that's going to give you an idea of what it is you're going to need. This particular Supercore is an S369. It's on the 80 millimeter turbine wheel, and it's running a 0.91 AR turbine housing. So that is the assembly that we're talking about today. This particular configuration is another collaborative effort between Area Diesel Service and CNC Equipment. So Clinton reached out and they're getting ready to build a truck and they need a turbocharger for it. If you've been watching Clinton's channel, you've seen a number of videos about an F350 they're working on. This is the truck that was cut in half on their channel. Originally a gas engine. They've got another donor where they're going to acquire the rest of the frame, and then I believe a third donor where they're going to come up with the 7.3 liter engine from. So Frankenstein, if you will, and they're going to arrive at a 97 F350 four-wheel drive Powerstroke short bed truck. So a configuration that was never offered from the manufacturer. Pretty cool. So in order for us to specify or configure a turbocharger, there's quite a bit of information that we must learn and understand. What is the engine? How much displacement? 7.3 liters of engine displacement. At what RPM will the engine be operating? What type of fuel delivery or horsepower is going to be made? What is the application? Is it a tow rig, a pulling rig, a grocery getter, what have you? And finally, what are the goals? Longevity, reliability, performance, all of these things kind of go into the recipe to specify the right turbo for that scenario. So the guys over at CNC are doing this one proper. It's going to be on a low mileage, 48,000 mile, 7.3 liter Powerstroke. They're going to pull the engine down, reseal everything. We think the combustion chambers are good. They are going to do head studs, valve train upgrades, base engine for the most part remaining stock. 25/100 hybrid Huey injectors going in this thing, being fed with a performance high pressure oil pump, and engine going to be tuned and calibrated appropriately. That's kind of the rundown for the build. They are going to modify, go to a T4 style pedestal to accept the BorgWarner S300. That kind of tells you about the modifications that this turbo is going to be facilitating. So at this point we've understood Clinton's application. We know the modifications that have been made to the engine or are going to be made to the engine, and that's obviously a significant part of the puzzle. The rest of the puzzle, the goals, right? What are we trying to do here? We're looking for something that is going to have excellent throttle response. Transient response is going to be good, no lag, if you will. We want something that's going to be reliable and have a long life in this application, and we want something that's going to be cost effective. And with all of those application situations and requirements, that is what we have arrived at. BorgWarner's S300SX-E 69mm compressor wheel inducer on the bigger option turbine wheel with a 0.91 AR turbine housing. That is the combination for Clinton's situation. Alright, so we'll bring you in a little closer and we'll take a look at some of the particular outline components of this turbocharger. Alright, so we talked about the E in S300SX-E being enhancements, right? So 360-degree thrust bearing inside the cartridge, forged, milled compressor wheel. The other enhancements come in the way of the compressor housing. Boost port, this has been machined and tapped but not drilled through. Same situation with the speed sensor port. The features are there. If you go to utilize the speed sensor, you'll need to finish the machining, which is effectively just drilling out the bottom of the passage. Then you can mount your speed sensor. The other awesome enhancement they've done, so the turbocharger comes with a hose barb compressor discharge. silicone hose and clamp. But if you don't like that connection style, you can machine off the hose barb and you'll reveal a V-band style compressor discharge, from which you can get any number of components that made up to that surface, go back to hose, go hard plumbed with your own custom piping, but you now have options for getting the air from the turbo into your engine. Those are primarily the enhancements in the SX-E line of turbos, and it has been well received. This is an awesome setup for you custom builders. 4-inch in compressor inlet, readily available components, 2.5-inch compressor discharge, again hose and V-band configurable. On the turbine housing side, again this is a 0.91 AR turbine housing. This is of the T4 foot variety, and there were two other factory options, one smaller, one larger. So this again 0.91, you can go down to a 0.88, effectively restricting the flow of exhaust, speeding up the velocity, driving the turbine harder, or a 100 if you want to go on the looser sides. For this particular combination, 0.91 is the solution. All right, if you've made it this far along in your project, you're about to need some additional components. We talked about the speed sensor port on the compressor housing. Again, it's not machined out, but should you choose to measure turbo speed, we've obviously got speed sensors for that, gauges if you are looking for an instrument there. If that's a dyno only measurement and you're done with the speed sensor, we've also got a plug to close that port back off, seal it up, O-ring and bolt go with that. If you are plumbing your oil connections, so the inlet is just 1/4-inch pipe, that's pretty easy to work with. The drain is flanged, so we've got the flange in a variety of different combinations, gaskets to bolt it up. You can weld off of this, or we've got them that are tapped and available. You can work with pipe thread there. Mounting it to your engine, several different options there. You may have an application with a factory T3 size exhaust manifold. We can convert that to T4, so you can mount this turbine housing to your engine without an exhaust manifold replacement. Rollover block, perhaps. You've got application clearance issues, tapped for exhaust gas temperature or drive pressure instrumentation. A large variety of compressor discharge options. So we'll drop you a link, pop up the ATA, that's Axis Turbocharger Accessories catalog. That is where you will find all of your plumbing and accessory type components. Lots of big help coming out of that product line for these situations. Exhaust connections and clamps will get you connected to the turbocharger, and then you or your exhaust shop can run it out the back from there. Everything you need to get this thing bolted on and brought to life. So as a BorgWarner franchise distributor, we have capabilities beyond just selling box components. Should you find a situation not covered by the offering within the catalog, please reach out to us. We have a pretty elaborate and nice machine shop in the back where we can make different modifications and custom components. For instance, configure a wastegated housing to line up on the SX-E line of turbochargers. So if you want to see how these modifications take place in our machine shop, we'll drop you a link to a video where we covered the modification in a similar situation. Check that out if you'd like. And service work, right? So we are factory authorized rebuilders and remanufacturers of the BorgWarner product line. If you're experiencing an issue, time for a refresh, hit us up. We can take care of that for you as well. So that's the rundown as I understand it. If I didn't cover something, please drop us a comment below and we'll get back to you and let you know what the answer is. If you need something within this range of componentry, please hit us up. If you already have it and have some questions, want to talk about your options, please reach out to us. We're easy to get a hold of and we're eager to earn your business. You can contact us at 800-637-2658. you can log on to our website at areadieselservice.com, where you can chat instantly with one of our turbo experts through the button in the bottom right hand corner of your screen. You can send us an email at parts@areadiesel.com, or you can stop by our locations in Illinois, Indiana, or Iowa. Alright, so if you haven't been watching Clinton's channel, CNC Equipment on YouTube, go over and check him out. You can watch the build for this truck, and you can watch this turbo be installed and see how appropriately specified it was. That's it. Thanks for watching.